Back in that bag again. Whoa, yeah, back in that, yeah. Tell them to watch it. Now I ain't talking my pockets, just know we ain't running out the way that we stock it. If I got it, you got it. If I call it, she sliding, tell her to mop it. Yeah, I got that on. Then she took that thing off and bring it around. Going at it till I'm on. Put that 90 in a hole, I'm beating it down. I'm back in that bag again. Whoa, oh, say less. I'm back in that bag again.
The Razer Viper Mini Signature Edition has landed, but is it the wireless Viper Mini that we all wanted? Let's talk about it. This has got to be one of the most requested mice in the history of gaming mice, or maybe I'm just biased because I've been asking for this thing for what seems like years now. The original was one of the best values in gaming mice, only costing $40 at the time of the drop. The shape was in the top 5, but it had budget specs, high liftoff distance, and the cord was just okay for a wired mouse. Now fast forward to 2023, we now have this Signature Edition that is literally a shell of its former self. The one thing that Razer had going for it was that it had enclosed shells, all while keeping the mouse lightweight, while other companies were cutting their mice to hell with holes. So now it's a little weird to see the Razer Viper Mini come out as one of the most expensive mice in gaming history, coming in at a whopping $280, and now it even has holes bigger than the competition. So let's just say this mouse isn't going to be for everybody. But before we pass judgment, let's take a look at everything that you're getting here, and then we'll rate the mouse accordingly at the end. All right, so you're gonna get this fancy leather box with the mouse in it. You're also gonna get some grips, some PTFE feet, and some glass skates. For the price that Razer's asking for the mouse, I'm glad to see that they're actually throwing in everything that you could possibly need with the mouse. Personally, I'm a fan of PTFE feet over glass skates. Their glass skates are only to be used on a soft matte surface, so just keep that in mind. In the box, you'll find Razer's 4000 Hertz polling rate dongle. It's nice to see this included with the mouse instead of an extra $30 charge that you would have to purchase later. Now, if you don't know what the polling rate does, it essentially checks the connection between your mouse and your computer, leading to a stronger connection and more information for your computer to pull during your tracking. It should provide an even smoother tracking experience. Now, it's not something that you're going to notice with an eye test. You can think of it as like unspoken riz. You can't see it, but you know that it's there. Looking back at the mouse itself, it now has a magnesium alloy shell instead of a plastic, rivaling the Starlight 12. It's definitely an interesting looking mouse. It looks pretty badass if you ask me. It's got that Razer Viper Mini look, but now with these gigantic holes on the back, it looks pretty futuristic. Razer had to use an intricate process where the mold could only be used once, and then they'd have to trash it to make another mouse. So that increased the price to produce the mouse and inevitably took more of a toll on our wallets. Now, Razer was able to accomplish having these big holes because of the strength of the magnesium alloy. Their goal was to get the mouse of the weight down as low as possible by any means necessary, all while keeping the structural integrity of the mouse. It feels super strong when you press down on the lines near the holes. From that standpoint, it's pretty exceptional. The sides are stiff. There's no side button actuation going on. And with all that being said, they were able to get this mouse down to 49 grams on my scale. When you do something like this, there are inevitably will be problems, and you know what, they cut out so much material from the back, and with all the components like the buttons, the scroll wheel, the fully enclosed mouse 1 and 2, the weight doesn't feel as balanced as something like their Razer Viper V2 Pro or their Death Adder V3 Pro offerings. This actually feels quite a bit heavier than the Atlantis Mini, which is actually a gram heavier than this mouse because of that fact. I'm kind of curious why they didn't just go with the Pulsar or Lamzu design of just cutting out the bottom of the mouse while keeping the top fully enclosed. I would have fully accepted this mouse at 55 grams if that's what it took. I really want a Razer to wow us like they have in the past with their amazing build quality and design that just left us asking, how the hell did they do this? That Razer magic, you guys know what I'm talking about. And it seems like they possibly took the easy route out here. Now, I don't know if these cutouts of the holes are because of the radio interference from the magnesium alloy, especially with a 4000 Hertz dongle, but to me, feels like it could have been done better. And that's a little weird for me to say during a Razer review, because usually they just nail the design. Now, the coating feels nice. It can feel a little bit slippery at times, especially when the mouse and your hand are cold at the same time. And I know for some of you pros, the arenas be cold AF, boy. Now, when you do warm up a bit though, it does help with the grip of the mouse and the control starts to get a bit better. They do offer those grips inside of the box, which I actually think most people might actually resort to if they do pick up this mouse. One of the best things about the original Viper Mini and why it was so loved was the shape. Hands down, it was the star of the show. The size was perfect for medium and small hands. They had this amazing gradual hump from the back of the mouse to the middle of the mouse, and man, it was just one of the most comfortable mice that I've ever used in my entire life to this day. With these cutouts though, it dims the shiny star that the Razer Viper Mini shape is, in my opinion. Instead of that nice gradual hump hugging your palm, you now feel like you're putting your palm on a cheese grater. Well, not that extreme, but you know, you can feel these as you would expect just from looking at the mouse. I don't think I need to tell you that. Now you do get used to it, but man, fully enclosed shell here would have put this mouse over the top and cemented as one of the best mice of all time. I actually find the Lamzu and Pulsar X2 both more comfortable than this mouse, but both of those fall to the original enclosed version of the Viper Mini. So let's say its predecessor, I give that a 10 in terms of comfort. I give this a 7. Now they did still keep the mouse 1 and 2 grooves, which I definitely like, and on the sides where your thumb and your ring finger and your pinky are very reminiscent of the original. How this translates to your grip is if your palm, I probably just skip over this mouse because the holes are just way too big and it's just not as comfortable. It makes your palm irritated. Now for claw, it's not as bad because you're only really feeling the bottom 3 holes and a little bit of the next few set. So it's decent on the comfort there. And of course, if your fingertip grip, it's not going to be much of an issue because you're just skipping the whole back piece. So I guess when you put it that way, this mouse is S tier for fingertip grip. Now my favorite part of the mouse is the magnesium alloy shell combined with the Gen 3 optical switches from Razer. These have to be some of the crispiest clicks that I've ever used, and don't even get me started on the side buttons. They are S tier. I love them. Barely any pre-travel and just the right amount of post-travel. Simply amazing. They did those correct. The scroll wheel is nice and defined, a little on the slow side though, but overall feels ultra premium. Clicking down the scroll wheel is also nicely done as well. I think they really nailed it on the buttons here. They've also moved the DPI button from the top and put it on the bottom and changed it to a power DPI button. Who's ever on the button team really needs to raise Razer. I'm telling you, they did this right. But don't take my word for it. Let's drop that sound test right about now. Oh yeah, love this. Let's talk a little bit about the wireless and the sensor. This has to be one of the best sensors in the game, has motion sync. It can even track on glass like we've seen in the past. Really nice sensor here. You can rest assured that you're getting the best performance possible of any mouse out currently. The battery life is running at 60 hours. Now, if this were a 1000 Hertz mouse, I would say this is a failure. But since this is running 4000 Hertz, when compared to some other 4000 Hertz mice, I'd say this is a winner. One night of gaming at 4000 Hertz for 3 hours took me from 85% battery to 67% battery. That's about an 18% battery per night, which would be about 5 days of gaming. If you game for a bit longer than that, you can do the math, about 6 hours a day. I would say you get about 2.5 days worth of charge. You'll most likely have to charge this thing, I'd say every 2 to 3 days just to be safe. It does feature fast charging though. For about 5 minutes of charge, I got 10% battery. About 10 minutes will get you through a whole night. The Razer Synapse has gotten better. You can change the steps of the DPI. You can customize the buttons, up the polling rate from 1000 to 4000 Hertz. They've also allowed to change the sleep mode time as well, so it's not going to go idle on you super fast. Nothing too out of the ordinary here. Overall, my experience, I still perform like a beast with this mouse, just like the original, but just with less comfort. I thought when I got this mouse that I was going to throw away all my other gaming mice. You know, I was like, I'm done. I don't need to review anymore. I'm going to take a couple months off of reviewing mice. I'm going to do some other stuff. But when I compare this to the Lamzu Atlantis Mini, I'm not 100% sold just yet. Now, if it did become my main, it wouldn't be because of the comfort. It would be for all the technology in this mouse, that's for sure. The 4000 Hertz, the optical switches, and the shape, it's very hard to pass up. In conclusion though, for me it feels a little bittersweet because we've waited so long for this mouse, and putting it out of reach for a lot of people price-wise, kind of sucks. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I have been told there will be more versions of the Viper Mini coming out. This is not the end of the story, but I'm gonna assume there's gonna be roughly about 2 more at least. I'm guessing there's gonna be something like the Razer Viper V2 Pro coming out with the plastic shell, and maybe one more version like this one with the magnesium alloy shell, but without the fancy box and extras, and possibly without the 4000 Hz polling rate dongle. So that still remains to be seen. We'll see when it happens. Hopefully they do an enclosed magnesium alloy shell. That would be my hope. But for me, like I said, as long as they get it in that 55 gram weight range, I think most people will be happy with this mouse. Razer did a lot of good with this mouse, but I fear the price will overshadow this drop. Now, don't get me wrong. This is a very, very good mouse. All right, the build quality is there, the magnesium alloy is there, they managed to get it under 50 grams, but for the $280 price tag, I would need this to be absolutely perfect, no matter what they include in the box, and I don't think that it's that well balanced. The cutouts really hurt the shape, and I felt like overall, Razer slipped a little bit, just a little bit, on this drop. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. People are gonna buy this mouse still, right? It's gonna happen, especially those of us who have been waiting for this drop for the longest time. And honestly, I wouldn't blame you because the tech in this thing is just bananas. I don't know, maybe I'm being too hard on this mouse because I'm such a fanboy of the original, but I think that's what we need to make this mouse great. And Razer, really what makes them great is that they listen to the feedback and adjust accordingly. One other thing, because I know I'm gonna get asked this, I would take this over the other magnesium alloy mouse, the Starlight 12 from Final Mouse, any day of the week still. The shape is just better for me personally, and all the other technology in here just puts it far over that mouse, except, well, maybe the battery life, but again, you're sacrificing that for that 4000 Hz polling rates, which I think is kind of worth it. All right, so if you're new here, we have a rating system where we rate the mouse out of 10. And in this case of the new signature Razer Viper Mini, I give it a rating of 9 out of 10. All right, so that's gonna do it for this review on the Razer Viper Mini Signature Edition. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button on your way out if you found this video useful. I'm gonna drop some other relevant content here. It has been your boy BT saying peace.